or feed literary notes. Not very in depth on this one because at this point, I trust you guys to know what we are talking about before. So, um, setting and background first. We're gonna start there. Um, so the setting of the story is primarily in the United States, but it's not the United States that we know. It is in the future. So it's around 100 years from now, so less than 100 years. It's still futuristic, but not as futuristic as, say, like the Terminator. And so what is going on in here is that nature has largely been destroyed. It just doesn't exist. The environment is literally causing people to get what are known as lesions, which the easiest way to know that what lesions are, and I apologize for the small spaces, are rashes or sores. Okay? The other part about this is corporations run everything. They are everywhere in the feed. And then the feed itself, when we talk about the feed, it's an internet microchip that's been implanted. So it is literally in people's heads. Okay? So it has been planted in each person's heads. Okay? It is literally in their heads. And this feed, um, think of it like a cell phone, a laptop, a gaming console, um, iPad, all of these things all in one. So it's basically all you need in terms of technology access. Another fun fact about this story is that at the start, everyone's basically infertile. They can't have children. And that's directly because of the environment. Okay? That's the first part. We get this drastic and kind of scary start to not looking for Alaska, to feed. Okay? So now we're going to talk about the genre. And the genre, I've hinted at this before in class, but the genre of um, feed is what we call dystopian literature. And what we mean by that is we are portraying a society where things have gone very, very wrong. Something happened and it's not great. And the reason why we do this is we want to think about our own society in a critical light. We're trying to see, okay, are there things in our society that makes us um, rethink what we're talking about? And this is similar to satire, but in a very dark way. It tries to make things um, that are not quite like today, but not uh, so crazy, not so crazy as to be unbelievable. I don't know why I didn't give you guys enough space for your notes. I apologize to us. Okay? So this idea that we want to make it different, but just different not so that you're thinking about the comparison, but not so different that it's like, okay, this couldn't possibly happen. That's the main thing about dystopian literature. Okay? So some parts that you need to know about dystopian literature is first hyperbole. And this is extreme exaggeration. is it's used to make us think. It's used to make us think, like, look at it and say, like, okay, this is a little over the top. Why is this over the top? It's primarily in the language, but it's everywhere. It's also in just how far things have gone wrong in the story. This is pretty common in dystopian literature. It's not just going to be in Feed, although um, it does show up in Feed, but it shows up in the genre in general. All right. Now talking about point of view, we specifically um, in this story, we have first person narrator. We have a teenager, guy by the name of Titus, and he tries to view the world from, honestly, he's kind of admittedly naive. He is a greenback. He is kind of childish. It also, by looking through Titus's eyes, it gives us glimpses of the feed itself and what it looks like, what it is, what it feels like, what it's doing during the story. It's all encompassing and it's everywhere. And it's kind of scary. I'm not gonna lie. All right. So, another thing about literary notes is that the tone is satirical. Um, Satirical means, again, exaggerated. When they look at styles in the story or the TV show names, the styles literally change place or change in the middle of a scene, kind of over exaggeration, but it's darkly doing that. Or TV show names, one of them is literally a look thing as literally a TV show name in this story. But it's also dark is because the world around them is literally disintegrating. And in the midst of all of this, nobody seems to care about it, honestly. Like, first of all, the most obvious example that you'll see is the lesions. Remember, lesions, sores, open wounds on the body. You'd think that you would care about open wounds on your body, but these guys, they're just like, nah, it's whatever. Writing style, it is a briskly written story. It is going to go quick. It takes a while to get used to the language. But the whole reason why they do it is so that you can breeze through it. They empty MT Anderson literally writes it so that you can breeze through it. That's the whole point of his story and how he writes it. Titus's experiences and the feed itself are both going at a million miles an hour. And Anderson just wants us to go along with it. Like, just kind of roll with it. That's literally all they want. Okay? And so it's gonna look fast. It's gonna feel fast, but you just kind of gotta go along with it. And it'll be just fine. We'll talk through it. Final literary notes. We got three classic ones. Symbolism. Use the symbols or objects to represent ideas or qualities. Pretty straightforward. What I'd like you to think about with symbolism as we walk through this book is how does Anderson, our author, use symbolism like the language itself to represent a bigger idea? Now, imagery, we have descriptive language. How does Anderson describe things, or does he, and why should we care? And last but not least, we have allegory. An allegory is when there's a story that has a hidden moral meaning for the reader to take away. What might the meaning of feed be as we read? Okay, that's all we got for today. Go ahead and submit those to Schoology for a check, please.